Well, here comes a request. She says, I get so confused on the color wheel when it says blue, green, red, orange, and various other mixes around the wheel. How do you know what a blue-green color would be? Do you just mix blue and green together, or could you already mix blue, green, and so forth? She asks lots of questions about that mixing. And she also adds, uh, do you have a set of colors that you always start with on your palette, or does that depend upon what you're going to paint? Yeah. Okay, lot to address here. Better get to work. Well, I'm going to answer her second question first because that's the shortest one, the easiest one to answer. Um, I always select my colors according to what I'm going to need for whatever the subject or the reference is, or what I want to do with it. So that's the answer to that. But to do that, I have already over the years narrowed down the colors that I use and the colors that I have on my palette. I keep this my major palette, the colors I use most of. I narrow those down according to what color does to color. And so I have other quick tips that talk about that. And so you can just maybe in the search bar on our YouTube page, the Dianne no in the studio art instruction on that YouTube page. If you search for palette or Diane's palette or whatever, then you can get that, or you can leave another comment and we'll take it from there. But the important question that she asked is, what about tertiary colors? What to do about tertiary colors? So I've made this little diagram of a color wheel here that shows we might call the progression of tertiary colors, and then I'm going to do just a little bit something for you to show you how I go about that. It really makes it really easy. So, and by the way, you can, if you want one of these to refer to, go to DianneMizeAcademy.com, and in the menu, click on free color wheels, because I have several, 3 or 4 there, that are specialty wheels where I've done extra things to show you something about how the wheel is organized and why it does what it does. Back to the tertiaries. If that's a word you're not familiar with, most of you probably are, the color wheel or color itself, hue itself, has 3 different categories. One category is the red, blue, yellow, red, blue, and those are the primary colors. And that primary in this language means the colors from which all other colors derive. Now there's arguments back and forth, and I'm not going to go into all that. I just know what it does when I paint. That's all I care about, and I hope that's all you care about. The secondary colors are those that have 2 primaries. They're composed of 2 primaries. The tertiary colors are composed of a primary and a secondary. So that's why they're called tertiary. And why is that important? Because it takes you around the color wheel, and because within that set of categories, you have possibility for every color you could want to make, taking into consideration the variations in values and the variations in saturations. We're just talking about tertiaries. Now here's what confuses people about tertiaries. Unlike the primaries, red, yellow, and blue, are always just primary, yellow, red, blue. They don't change. What changes is when they start mixing with colors beside them. And when they start mixing with colors beside them, they become secondary. But a secondary is always a secondary. It doesn't change. The change comes in the tertiaries. That's where one color, a primary or a secondary, is migrating over to the next one. And here it is in diagram for you. So we've got yellow orange, for example, here and here. Yellow orange has in it both yellow and orange. I should have chosen another because it doesn't show as well here, but I'll show you anyway what I'm talking about. Yellow orange has yellow and orange, but it has at least three visible degrees of yellow and orange. So right here on the edge of the tertiary, and I've shown you that in this inner circle, what tertiaries actually do. The color wheel, the traditional color wheel, just represents that with a single hue. But in reality, what happens in tertiaries is that we might see a yellow-orange that leans towards orange, meaning it's a little bit more orange than it is yellow. Or we might see a yellow-orange leaning towards yellow, where it's a little bit more yellow than it is orange. So the tertiaries gradate from a primary to a secondary. They change, they gradate. And that's the reason her question is so interesting. She says, how do I, she says, for blue-greens, when she addressed, how do I handle that? Well, let's look at blue-green then. So here's blue-green as it appears on, or in the range of how it appears on most color wheels. You'll see some variation there from color wheel to color wheel. I've had the computer to create a blue-green here that's as close to the registration of blue-green, but then we'd have to depend upon printers to print it correctly. We won't even go there. Let's say we have enough to work with here. We have enough to think with. So the blue-green you can see here is combined with blue right here and green right here. And the tertiary of the blue-green, there's a section that is pretty much blue-green, visible to our eyes, and some people probably can see more divisions than others. Then a blue-green that leans towards green and a blue-green that leans towards blue. So what that leads to, in order to create that, you must know what hue is in your tube colors. That's step number one. And if you don't know what hues are in your tube colors, it's going to be a guessing game. Now, so I can start with this. What I know in my tube colors is that blue itself, not blue-green and not blue-green or blue-violet, but just blue itself is the purest in cobalt blue. I know that, but also in ultramarine blue. Now I know it because when I put ultramarine blue mixed with white and put a stroke here, which I'm going to do in just a moment to show you how this works, and then also take cobalt blue, mix it with white, put them side by side. They look so close. They're so close. And there are actually some brands of ultramarine blue that make them look identical. So the brand of cobalt and ultramarine, and also what it's called. For example, there's French ultramarine, and then there's ultramarine blue, and there's ultramarine deep, and blah, 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 blah. All you need is plain old-fashioned ultramarine blue. So that's why I have chosen ultramarine blue as my blue. The blue that is blue, doesn't lean towards green. Mine doesn't lean towards blue-violet. So it sits on blue. That's why I chose it. Now, so I know that. I know that if I need blue and nothing else, not a blue that leans towards green and not one that leans towards violet. If I want a blue, I know that I can depend upon ultramarine blue to give me what I want. So that's one thing. So that's knowing your tube color. Know what hue. Hue is the names around the color wheel. What hue is in your tube color. Now, what else do I know about my tube colors? I know that I have a blue-green that's made by Rembrandt, a blue-green that's made by Rembrandt, and it's called Viridian. And I also know that there are other Viridians made by other companies that are not that same green. But the one made by Rembrandt is transparent and dark. And I know that that blue-green is a blue-green that leans a little bit more towards green. Now, so what can I do? On the color wheel, as the subscriber or the commenter pointed out, on the color wheel, if the color you're looking at leans more towards green, then that's what you aim for. So the deal is you can start out with either blue or blue-green, and then lean it towards green or lean it towards blue. Now I'm going to show you how that works. I've got here, just to show you some place to go, people call sky blue. It's blue-green. There may be areas of the sky that end up being blue because of lots of variation in hue in the sky. But what we recognize as a color of the sky is a blue-green that leans towards blue. So that's what we have here. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I've got potential right here with my white to get that color, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. So I'm going to start out with blue-green, and this is the Viridian, Rembrandt Viridian. Now, I didn't go through all my colors and tell you the hue that you didn't need. We don't need them for this exercise, but you can identify the hue in your colors. I've got other quick tips, I think, about identifying hue. If not, there is there's the concept lesson on the Academy, DianneMizeAcademy.com. Again, the same place you're going to find this. There's free concept lesson there that helps you to identify your tube colors. So go watch that. It won't hurt at all. All right, so now here's what I'm going to do. Let's take you step by step. So let's start with some white. Let's just get a value. I may not need that much. So I'm going to pull a little bit of the white here into this and just get that value so that you can read it. And you can see it's a blue-green that leans towards green. Okay, so that's a good start right there. Of course, the value varies. The value varies, and saturation will vary. But let's just talk about hue here, because that's what was confusing this person. All right, now if I hold that on back, you can see that the blue-green is leaning towards green. It's leaning a little bit more like right here on the edge of it, but it's a lighter value. So now, if I want to make that blue-green lean more towards blue, well, first of all, let's get value correct. What value are we looking for? And I always do that with depending, it's white, I'll do that with white if it needs to be lighter. And if it needs to be darker, I get more of the darker color. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that right here so that you can see. There we go, and that is the similar value, a little bit darker. Let's make it a little bit, put a little bit more of the white into it. Right here, there we go. Oh, I might have pulled it up. There we go. I think that'll work. Now, all right, let's do some sampling on the canvas here. I'm aiming for this right up in here. You see how that value changes as it goes down, but I just don't want to make this too long. So just give you enough to work with. How you go about doing this. So what I'll do here now is I will pick up some of this blue and go to the blue-green, and I'm just going to pull a little blue. Well, I'll just pull an edge of the blue here too. It doesn't matter either way. A little bit of that blue-green here. And let's see what we get. This. Oh, I should have shown you. There it is right there. I should have shown you. If you look, you can see this back is right about in here in terms of the value level. Let me show you. Go ahead and rinse off my brush real good and put that original green up there to show you how to get from one area to another. So this is a little bit backwards. So here's the blue-green that leans towards green. There it is right there. Now that's this value. That gives you the comparison. All right, now you can see that this is very, very different from this, but you can see that this is beginning to look more like that. And I guess maybe it wouldn't hurt if I show you the blue itself right here. This is blue by itself. All right, now can you see that this is just a little bit greener than this? This is the primary blue. Then this begins to move towards tertiary. Now let's keep moving, show you how long it will stay in the tertiary. All right. First of all, I'm going to get that color. So I'll bringing down the green into the blue, and let's see how this changes. See there? That's getting very. There's a little bit bluer here, a little bit greener here, and can you see Can you see on my brush how close that is to that sky color right there? Of course, as I said before, the value changes. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. This is the end of it. This is where you might say it starts turning blue-green. A little bit more blue-green there. A little bit more blue in it there. All right, let's do some a little bit more. Let's see how far I can take this and stay reasonable about it. So we get a little bit greener. It's still blue-green right here. Can you see that? A little bit of a change there. Maybe that one is not quite. Here we go. Let's try it this way. All right, see, that's it's kind of really a wonderful little gradation there. Now I'll quit dipping into the blue, and then this is going to be the Viridian with just a little bit of the ultramarine blue, and that goes right here. Do you see the difference there? So now both of these are blue-green. Okay, that's part of the question. So what if you need this desaturated? This is really very, very saturated right here. So what if you need it desaturated? What if you have a blue-green that is a little bit grayer or less saturated? Then that is where it might get a little bit tricky on you. But once again, it has to do with knowing what's in your tubes, what your tube colors are. So if you look at how this works, straight across, diagonally straight across, you see when I tilt it like this at the end and come to this edge, going that way, and what I'm doing is I'm going towards red. Red and green will desaturate each other. And people also say neutralize each other. All right, so but I'm going over to this blue-green, and what I'll need to do there is to go to the side of the tertiary that's closest, to red. Red here. And so I'll go there then. Oh, this is red right here. This is red-orange. So there's the red, and then there it is with just a little bit of that violet in it. Now, so the red is going to neutralize the green. So if we go straight across here to the blue, to this edge of the blue-green, where the blue-green is closest to the red, and where the red on this side is closest, I said that wrong, where the blue-green is closest to the green, and where the red on this side is closest to the red, that is the color that will neutralize. This will neutralize that. And so then see how it works? If your blue-green is more in this range of the tertiary, really there are really only about 3 different degrees of that hue in there that we can detect with our eyes. So you don't have to worry about like increments, tiny increments, because that's not reasonable. But if your blue-green is more balanced between blue-green, then your red-orange should be more balanced too. And then the red-orange mixed into that will desaturate it. And the same thing goes over here. So it's the side of the end of the tertiary you choose is the one that's closest to the complement of whatever primary. So if it's here, and this is red orange, I'm going right up in here, okay, right over there, then that's complement. That red orange is the complement of blue, so the orange is on the end there closest to the orange. The red orange closest to the orange will be the one that will desaturate the blue that's closest to the blue, and vice versa. And so I hope I didn't make that too but if you can just take something straight with this little diagram here, you just take something that's straight like this and see how they align each other with their opposite ends of each other. You'll see how that works. So to take that one step further and show you how that works, the red-orange I have on my palette that leans closer to red is the red-orange here, and this is cadmium red light. And as far as I know, cadmium red light comes in all brands pretty close, as far as I know. And you see that it's about a middle value, but very, very desaturated. Now, the red orange that leans towards orange means, and that's what I will need to saturate the blue-green that leans towards green. That's this one right here. All right, now let's watch that happen. So, no, I'll just put the red-orange right here. That's very, very strong in tinting strength. So I'm going to do that gradually. So let me just mix a little bit more of this so I can have some blue-green that leans towards green. Well, let's see. That's really equivariant as it comes out of the tube, more or less. Let's see how that works. Now put those two side by side and begin to pull one into the other, and you can watch it gradually neutralize. You see it, right? That's the way it works. So what it comes down to, can you see how it's getting more neutral there? More neutral, more neutral. It will have varying saturations of the blue-green. It leans towards green. Varying saturations, and then eventually it becomes neutral, but as neutral as you can get tertiaries. Some of the tertiaries, you'll see the neutral will go warmer and some will be cooler, but we don't need to address that here. But can you see now how neutralized that is? And of course, I guess it wouldn't be a bad idea to just give that a stroke. Did I mix enough of it to make a stroke here to show you that neutral? There it is right there. So there's the neutral. Lean a little bit towards red, doesn't matter. Right there. So I think you'll have fun playing with that, but the first thing to do, identify your tube colors. Don't spend your life in ignorance and having to guess what they will do to each other. Identify your tube colors according to their hue. The hues are, as it goes around the color wheel, the hues are yellow, yellow, orange, orange, and so on. These, the 12 hues right here, those are the ones that you need to identify because those are the ones that do things to each other. Whether you're mixing them from opposites, as we call complements, or whether you're mixing them in an analogous, meaning one color next to other or very, very close to the other there. So give that a try and see if it doesn't help give you clarity. Be sure to view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.